Well, you guessed it. This is another film where the victims in the movie and in the investigation moves the story forward. The only thing is, it is also set in the 1990s, I think 1993 specifically, but this is a film, again, where they ask a lot of big questions but only answer very little. And this is The Little Thing, starring Denzel Washington, Rami Malek, and Jared Leto. And I think I butchered his last name, but let's get into it. Here we have Denzel Washington playing a county sheriff, and Rami Malek plays an LASD detective. And so from there, this is where their friendship starts and begins. Now, immediately we know that they are not going to get along, just from how Denzel Washington acts and from how Rami Malek acts. They are both very professional in what they do, but they are both kind of outcasts in their own way. Denzel Washington, he sticks to himself a lot of the time. He allows his past cases to haunt him personally, and that helps him provide extra details that he may have missed in the current case that he is working on now. And Rami Malek, he really dives into his family and into his, religious faith that he has as well, which also plays into the film quite a bit, especially towards the end. And it just goes to show, good versus evil and things like that once these characters start to make very dire decisions further along in the film. We know that Denzel Washington has done this before, but we kind of get the hint that he sees everything before everybody else does. And there's a twist later on in the film that does kind of back up that reasoning and that expectation when you are getting further into this case and what they are learning and what you are learning. And it starts to really benefit the relationship of both Denzel Washington and Rami Malek. Leto's character is definitely the mystery of the entire film. And even up until the end, you're still not quite sure whether it is that he is actually guilty of what it is that they think he is guilty of. And leaving it so open-ended up for interpretation, and you actually kind of know more about Denzel Washington and Rami Malek by the end of the film. It's really more about the little things that bother them and affect them and how it will affect them in the future rather than the actual criminals that they are fighting for. And when you realize that, and the trailer actually kind of exposes that a little bit as well, then you really start to dive into what John Lee Hancock was trying to do, since he wrote and directed the film, kind of like a 90s crime thriller movie. And you get all those tropes, but it does very much so come back, and it's not wasted. So like the material that you see in the beginning, or all the investigation scenes, or terminology that you're hearing for maybe the first time, it does play a larger role in the film, but it's what you do with those details and how you cope with them that really does matter. Something else I noticed pretty early on in the film is that whenever Malek is introduced, we know that something bad has happened, whether it's to a victim or to one of the main central characters. And then when Joe's character is walking around and he is investigating by himself, then we start to really wonder what's going to happen next, when the next victim is going to happen, when the next murder is going to happen, how is that murder going to happen, do we see it, do we not see it? And that's really it. The film itself does not hold our hand at all. John Lee Hancock shows what he wants to show, and it's for a reason. If you're staring at a dead body, it's because the person that has killed them is part of this whole ring of crimes that are waiting to continue to happen and are affecting them and the city that they live in. And it's just that simple. That is what the film is about, and it's really not much further or deeper than that. Again, they ask the big questions, but it's all up to interpretation for the viewer. And so you're left wondering, what would you do in this situation? How would you pay attention to the little things? Can you seek them out? My only actual complaint is this. Again, I'll say this film is enjoyable. That's not my complaint. My complaint is some things feel a little breezed by. Like they're a little quick and seen as more of a mystery than kind of, to me, felt like a cop-out. And I don't want to say that because it is development within their characters. And I feel like John Lee Hancock wanted us to kind of hint at that earlier on, but it was a shock to me, which is a plus. It's just, it didn't affect me as much on an emotional level, as much as just like shock factor. Like my jaw did drop to the floor towards the end of the film and other certain points. But that's really all it does. And other than that, they kind of just go back to their lives, even though they are now processing everything that they have been through. And you kind of just wait for more to happen. You're like, oh, there's going to be something extra. Oh, maybe they missed something. But that's it. It kind of just ends. And so you're left with not a cliffhanger, but more questions. Now, the score is something else that I've been bouncing around, but I do have a percentage score out of 100 in my Letterboxd review as well, or rating. So I'm going to give the Letterboxd one first, and that is a 2.5 out of 5. I know that seems low, and the score is also going to be low for the percentage, but it's going to be a 43% for me. Again, it's an enjoyable film, and it accomplishes its goal, but that's about it. It doesn't really do anything different. And that is its biggest fault, and I think fear that maybe it forgot to actually be afraid for. And so with that being said, this is my review for The Little Things. I hope it was maybe adding on to the conversation rather than just continuing to say the same thing. But if not, then either way, go check it out if you want to. I saw it in theaters, and I think you should too. And I will see you guys in the next video.